Are psychedelics going to be the new treatment for substance abuse and mental health? I don't know. RFK Jr. makes a lot of good points in this video, so check it out.
What are your thoughts on psychedelics?
My initial bias about psychedelic drugs is again colored by my experience of being in recovery for 40 years. I don't think that in most cases that we can fix things that are wrong inside of us with things that are outside of us, with all the things that we reach for when we feel discomfort, whether it's drugs or alcohol or sex or reckless behavior. Particularly people who are prone to addiction are always looking for things outside of them to fill this empty hole that they have inside of them. Having said that, my wife in 2012 took her own life and left me with 6 children. And so all of those kids were at risk at the time. And they all ended up doing really wonderful things with their lives. And one of them was worrying to me because he never processed his mom's death in a way that I could observe. He seemed like a happy kid. He was always smiling. He did get in a lot of fist fights. He became a boxer. And he won a lot of tournaments, and then he became a hockey player. But everything he did was a little bit of violence too, and it made me worried about him. About 5 years ago, he was very self-contained. He never talked about what was going on inside of him, and he went to Patagonia to kayak a whitewater river. And I asked this guy to put my son up for a couple of days while he was waiting for his trip to start. The night my son arrived there, that guy said to him, "I'm doing an ayahuasca trip tonight." And he said, "God sent you boys to me," because he was doing it with 20 Poinche Indians. And he said, "I was praying to God that he would send me a gringo to do this with." And so my kid ended up doing this. And he had this experience where after he drank the ayahuasca, he felt himself sinking through all the geological strata of the earth. And he could look at he told me he could look at all the folds of stone and geology. And he had a total understanding of all of the processes that had laid them out for the eons. He ended up being propelled out of the other side of the earth and then floating through space for what he experienced as hundreds of years. And he would focus on a distant planet and be transported there. And on each planet, he would have an adventure. And at the end of the adventure, there would be a lesson, a moral lesson that he would learn, that he was supposed to remember. The last planet he visited, his mother was there. And she started passing through him, in and out of him again and again. And every time she did that, he felt all these experiences of forgiveness, of love, of understanding, of comprehension, of empathy and compassion. And when he came back from that trip, he was completely changed. He was very open about talking about his feelings. He was on a real spiritual quest. The reason I really know that it changed him is he started taking out the garbage and doing the dishes. And he's done the dishes constantly without ever being asked since then. He's a 24-year-old kid, so you know that's a miracle. So that opened my mind to the possibility that there may be, something that I didn't understand or that was outside of my kind of bubble of prejudices. And then I have a friend who's a Navy SEAL who had severe PTSD, and he went to Costa Rica and had the same kind of experience. And I had a couple of other friends who were in the NFL, and they also had severe brain injuries and depression, terrible, terrible depression. And the same thing happened. And then I looked at Michael Pollan's documentary, which I think is on Netflix. I think the third show is on psilocybin. And there's a kid on that show who had severe OCD. He literally could not go out of his house. And he did one psilocybin trip, and it was completely gone. So my mind is open to the idea that You know, there may be things that I don't know about, and that people ought to have the freedom and the liberty to experiment with these things. I like what you said at the outset, which is, you know, we know the capacity of the pharmaceutical industry to come and capture this if they see that there's money in it, and then to turn it into something very, very bad, and to promote it in ways that it shouldn't be promoted. My inclination would be to make this available at least in therapeutic settings and maybe more generally, but in ways that would discourage the corporate control exploitation of it.
If you made it through the video, let me know what you think in the comments. Let's get it, baby.